ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another exciting Australian Indian Radio's daily Facebook Live update. And what a weekend we have had. Of course, there has been so much that's been happening out there. We will listen from the Premier with the latest and, of course, all the precautions that we need to be taking. And, of course, we know there have been many functions and events that have been cancelled in the weekend. But it's a very strange term. But it is something that we really need to come to terms with. And of course, it is something that we need to take very seriously. As the message is that we need to control it and control it now before it gets any further. And I think the way all the functions and events have been cancelled very responsibly, I think that is a wonderful thing to see. But right now, let's take a very quick look at today and see what today is going to look like. And with the weather update, we'd like to welcome Dilraj.
Good morning, everyone. Weather forecast for the rest of today is a maximum of 21 degrees. Brisbane area is mostly sunny. Winds westerly 15 to 20 km per hour, tending southwesterly in the morning, then becoming light in the middle of the day. Chances of rain are 0%. Sun protection is recommended till 2:30 p.m. Fire danger is very high, and UV index predicted to reach 6, that is high. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dilraj, and that's wonderful news there now of all the upcoming weather patterns for the rest of today. Well, right now, as I said before, that it is important that we get the message, and let's right now join the Premier at the Queensland Parliament as he's made this announcement, and this has just come off to us right now.
300 have one new case. That is a relative of a confirmed case, and Dr. Young will talk a little more about that shortly. That means we have 18 active cases. Our total confirmed cases is 1,106, and there were over 6,300 tests in the last 24 hours. Can I thank everyone for coming out and getting tested? But of course, it's very critical over the next 7 to 14 days. If you have any symptoms whatsoever, please go and get tested. It is absolutely critical that everyone follows these messages. I can confirm that all of the young people at the detention centre have now been tested. We are awaiting just a few results there. And all of the Brisbane Youth Detention Centre staff have been tested except for 16, and we are working on those people as a matter of priority. Of course, all schools are open today, which is great news. And yesterday, some people may have received emergency alerts. We are letting people know in those particular suburbs where some of our confirmed cases have visited that if you develop any symptoms, to go and get tested. So I think we're getting all of the direct messaging out as quickly as possible. And there are a lot of fever clinics that are set up across the southeast. So if you are feeling sick at all, please go and get tested. So I'll hand over to Dr. Young, and then we're happy to take some questions after we go through everyone else.
So one new case overnight who is the relative of one of the workers at the centre. So that's a close contact, and she was placed into quarantine on the 22nd. So we'll now work with her to just sort out her infectious period, and whether that means we need to let people know of any other places that potentially are a risk. So it's very important, though. You would have seen all the list of the many places across Greater Brisbane and Westmoreton and Logan that people who have been infectious have visited. There are so many places that really it's about, if you've got any symptoms at all, come forward and get tested. This is the time to do it. Thank you very much to all of those people who did come forward in the last 48 hours. That has been excellent, but we do need more people with symptoms to come forward. We need to track this virus down where it's been. It's an infectious virus, as we all know, and we need to act quickly, promptly to be able to contain it. Now, I have put in place some new arrangements with our hospitals. So I have asked our hospitals, and we're going out this morning to primary care, to recommend that they consider using masks within their facilities for all patients, visitors and staff. That we just need to manage this as we go forward. So for that area of Greater Brisbane, so Metro North, Metro South and West Moreton, those 3 hospital and health services, that this is the time to implement mask usage broadly within the facilities. We can do that because of the enormous work that's been done since the start of this pandemic to put in place local manufacturing of masks, so we have enough masks to do this. And so as a precaution, not because I think that there's been any great escalation, just as a precaution that I want this in place throughout our facilities. And there were some other things that people need to continue to adhere to. We've seen with this cluster, we now have 5 workers at the centre and 5 of their relatives have already been infected. We know that spread within households is what you always will see at the start of a new cluster, which is why we put in place that requirement to limit gatherings to 10. It is really important that within households, within private gatherings, maximum of 10 people, because it's that closeness that we know will lead to spread of the virus. That's extremely important. Outside this immediate area of concern of Brisbane and Ipswich, gatherings have been limited to 30. Now, for the rest of our society, as long as people follow those COVID-safe plans, I've been through all of them, I know how good and solid they are, then I think they are fine. If people don't follow the COVID-safe plans, that's when we'll have to consider what else might need to be done. But at this point in time, I'm very confident that with those plans rolled out, they've all been in place for quite a while now, so people know what they're doing, that we don't need any further restrictions. So it's just those gatherings of 10 people, that's really important, and adhering to COVID-safe plans. So everyone, please, throughout the state, any symptoms, come forward, get tested, isolate yourself, that's really important, and maintain social distancing wherever you can. Thank you. I think that this is the time, because we know we've got the masks out there, that everyone should consider, if they can't maintain social distancing, that it's time to use a mask. So if you're in a crowded situation that you can't get out of, put a mask on. So I think, as I've been suggesting for some time, a bit of hand sanitizer in your back pocket or your handbag, and a mask with it. And if you get yourself into a situation where you cannot socially distance, it's time to consider using a mask. I'm not going to mandate it because I don't believe we have broad spread community transmission, but certainly we're in a risky period at this time. So within Greater Brisbane and Ipswich, within those areas, it's time to think about, if you cannot maintain social distancing, wear a mask. Always remember, social distancing, that 1.5 metres, is far more effective than a mask. Masks are not totally foolproof. They will not protect you totally. Whereas maintaining social distancing and washing your hands will protect the vast majority of people in the vast majority of situations. No, but I hope to get that answer fairly soon. So we're waiting on the genomic sequencing of these cases and those cases that came from Melbourne. That's what I'm working on at the moment. Yeah, it's too early to say. It is a concern, but also I suspect people are starting to hear the message. I want to test people with symptoms. So I know you can have this disease without symptoms, but those people are very, very rarely a cause of a chain of transmission. It's the people with symptoms that are the really critical group. And I think we're seeing more of the people coming forward actually are those people with symptoms, and they're the really critical group. So I think that people are starting to understand the messages, because they are very complex messages. They are really difficult messages. So I think it's just we're 7 months in now and people are hearing that, and people heard the first time and now they're hearing this message. I also suspect the weather might have had something to do with it. It was a really bad weekend for Brisbane. It was very, very windy, it was cold, and I suspect a lot of people were at home. So today and the days coming forward, really, I do want people to come out and get tested if they've got any symptoms at all. That's really important. Yes, I've essentially declared all of Brisbane and Ipswich a hotspot, a restricted area, whatever terminology you want to make, but it's Metro North, Metro South and Westmore Hospital and Health Services. So that's all of those local government areas that sit in there. So it's Greater Brisbane, out to Redlands, including Logan, going out to Ipswich. Well, it's not a declared hotspot, it's a restricted area. It's an area where I've put restrictions in place in terms of hospitals, in terms of gatherings, and in terms of getting people to be more alert and come forward and get tested. There's no restrictions in travel at this point in time, but of course the normal requirements remain. If people are sick, this is not the time to go travelling. So before anyone goes and leaves their home to move out of this area or to go anywhere, they should think, am I well? And if I'm not 100% well, that is not the time to be travelling. So those cases are in hospitals across the state. So we've got those 5 cases out there. Yes, 5 cases. And the other cases are all in quarantine on those cargo ships, and they'll all get tested again prior to exiting from quarantine. Yes. So she was always, of course, allowed back into Queensland. She's a Queensland citizen, as are her parents, so she was always allowed back in. Her initial request didn't convince me that her parents understood the necessity for quarantine. She must be quarantined with her family. So I've now, because they now fully understand that necessity and my concerns, so they've agreed to go into their home and to quarantine, and we've got a lot of support in place to ensure that happens. Yes, we do have serology tests back, but the problem with serology is it's not definitive. It's not like the PCR tests that we know are due to this virus. Serology can react to other coronaviruses, so we just need to wait and see the subsequent test to know what that means. So, yes, there have been some indications, yes. Several. But as I said, there's a lot of coronavirus out there. There are 4 other coronaviruses circulating in our community. Most of them just lead to a very minor cold. So we just need to work out what this means. It's too early to be definitive about any of those serology tests.
So there are, just to be clear, that there are younger trainees there who could have had it, but you can't be certain at this point.
That's correct.
So ladies and gentlemen, we'd leave that interview there, and as we have heard that it is very, very important that we stay home if we are not feeling well, and if there is any symptoms, please go get yourself tested. There can't be any more clearer than that, and it's been stressed that it is very, very important that if you are not feeling well, go and get yourself tested. Now, when we looked at the places that the detention center youth had visited, The full list is on many websites, including our website. But the Queensland Youth Detention Coronavirus cases, here's the list. I will not go through the time, otherwise it will take just too much. So in Browns Place, they went to Anytime Fitness, which is in the Village Square, Woolworths Grand Plaza, Spotlight, Coles Grand Plaza, and Office Works, Bunnings, Kmart Grand Plaza, Forest Lake IGA Express, Woolworths Forest Lake Shopping Centre, Australian Nails at the Forest Lake Shopping Centre, Nando's in Forest Lake Shopping Centre, Forest Lake Shopping Centre, Coles Forest Lake Shopping Centre, Lakeside Fruit Barn, Forest Lake Shopping Centre, Big Tree Bakehouse, Forest Lake Shopping Centre, Aldi in Forest Lake Shopping Centre, the Chop Chop Butcher in Forest Lake Shopping Centre, Best and Lest Forest Lake Shopping Centre, and then in Greenbank, the Greenbank Takeaway, and in Waikol, BP, corner of Boundary Road and Progress Road, and in Mount Gravatt, the Mount Gravatt Swimming Pool and Dami Japanese Restaurant, in Carina Heights, Thai Antique, and in Slacks Creeks, IKEA, in Marsden, Woolworths, Marsden on the 5th Shopping Centre, in Greenslopes, BCF, and the Gem Factory, and also the Rock and Roll Butcher on Logan Road, and in Crestmead, Chemist Pharmacy, Warrath Road, Bagdale, R&D Fitness, Carringdale, Westfield, Carringdale, particularly bras and things in Ganda Clothing and Maya, and in Camp Hill Marketplace, Baskin Robbins, and Pooh Inn. In Saywood, Red Cross Opportunity Shop in Saywood Road, News Agent in Saywood, Indropolis Shopping Centre, and inside that was Bupa and Origin Kebabs, Maya's, David, Touch of Indian Sweets from Heaven. And then in Ipswich, Riverlink Shopping Centre, the Reject Shop, Jamaica Blue Coffee Shop, Ipswich Hospital ED, Emergency Department, and Bundamba, Costco Bundamba Self-Service Fuel Station, and Brussels Uncle Bill's Takeaway. So these are some of the places that the visitors are. Sorry, I could not go through all the timings because it will take too long, but this information is on our website, and it will also be on the government's website, on Queensland Health's website, and the directive that's been issued out by Queensland government this morning, the Gazette, that also has all of these places and the timings. So please be very, very careful, and don't go out unless you really have to. Avoid crowded places and avoid going to shopping centers, and even hospitals and other places where there's many people, unless you really, really have to. So, we cannot stress enough the point that this is not the time to be out and about. If you're going to your work and you're going to be at that work all day long, that's fine, and you know who's there. But, do not go out to other public places unless, of course, you really, really have to. Under compelling and compassionate reasons, you are allowed to travel as well. Of course, travel is not restricted in Queensland. You can travel to any of the locations within Queensland if you are a Queenslander. So, again, these are trying times, and I think the measures that have been put in place, some people say they're far-fetched, that, it's just far-reaching, but I don't think so. I think it is in the safety, and it concerns everyone, and it is very, very important that we adhere to those rules and regulations that have been put in place, because it is for everyone's safety and for the safety of the community at large. And that should always be our main aim, that, we should not only just think about us, ourselves, and our convenience, but also think of the community at large and everyone else's safety and well-being. And in doing so, I know there have been many functions and events that have been cancelled that were supposed to take place in the weekend. And I thank all the organizers for doing that, because looking at the scenarios and looking at the directive that's been put out, it's no use even trying to risk it or trying to contain it to the 10 that's allowed. But because even when people are out of those 10, all you need is one. One case, and that's it. You go. So why take the chance if you can? Postpone event. You should postpone those events. And later on, when we talk about functions and events, we will talk about some of the functions and events that have been put on hold for now as well. Our community has been very adaptive. They have been adapting to all these changes and adapting to the ways and the norms. When you say norms, if you can call it the norms, but adapting to the circumstances, I should say, and then acting accordingly. But sometimes there are things that have to take place, like the funeral of Dr. Patel today. Yes, if you didn't know that, Dr. Patel of Kedron Medical, his funeral is today, but it is going to be a small private affair under the current circumstances. And everyone knows Dr. Patel. He was quite a very popular figure within the Indian community, one of the initiators of the Indian cultural organization, the one that started the Indian Bazaar and many other things. So we will bring a segment and look at all the things that he had done. OIM, he was also once the Citizen of the Year of Brisbane City Councils. So he's done a lot, achieved a lot here for the community, but in the last few years he has been a little bit silent because he could not move around a lot. So today, at about 11 a.m. will be his funeral, and from us and from Australian Indian Radio and Brisbane Indian Times, we'd like to pass on our condolences to the family, and also we pray for his heavenly abode. May his soul always rest in peace. So that's Dr. Patel. Now on the lighter note, today is Devika's birthday. Happy birthday, Devika, from all of us here at Brisbane Indian Times and Australian Indian Radio. The whole team wishes you a very, very happy birthday, and I hope your day is filled with joy, and may Lord shower his blessings on you today and forever. Wonderful to share this day with you. Now, just for that, towards in the end, I will bring a little segment just for you. But right now, ladies and gentlemen, let's move on and let's take a quick look at a few of the functions and events that are taking place right here. But before we do that, a very quick commercial break.
ग्लोबनेट रियलिटी 1989 से लेकर अब तक का विश्वसनीय और माननीय ब्रिस्बेन का रियल एस्टेट एजेंट है। उषा चंद्रा, जो कि ग्लोबनेट की डायरेक्टर है, अपने ग्राहकों को ईमानदार और एथिक सर्विसेज देती हैं। अगर आप ब्रिस्बेन की प्रॉपर्टी में पूंजी लगाना चाहते हैं और आप चाहते हैं कि आपकी प्रॉपर्टी को प्रोफेशनली मैनेज किया जाए, तो आप आज ही कांटेक्ट कीजिए उषा चंद्रा को। लैंडलाइन नंबर है 38654466 और मोबाइल नंबर है 0419775416। और आप प्रॉपर्टी की अधिक जानकारी और करंट अपडेट्स के लिए हमारी वेबसाइट पे लॉगिन कर सकते हैं। हमारी वेबसाइट है www.globnetreality.com.au। ग्लोबनेट रियलिटी आपका अपना लोकल रियल एस्टेट एजेंट है। हमारा पता है ग्लोबनेट रियलिटी, शॉप नंबर 5, 2281 सैंडगेट रोड, बुंदल, क्वींसलैंड। ग्लोबनेट रियलिटी, रियल एस्टेट इज आवर वर्ल्ड।
And it definitely is the world. Well, ladies and gentlemen, moving on, let's take a quick look at news in brief. So first up, we'll go to Victoria. Yes, I know, Queensland has become in the focus of us Queenslanders lately, but I think the way we are going, we'll probably be able to manage that, and I hope so. I really, really hope so as well that that we do that. Of course, the Premier is being criticized many times, and so is our health officer for the measures that they have put in place. But, I personally, this is my personal belief, is that, they're not, far apart, but I think they are preventive and they have to be taken accordingly. Well, right now, Daniel Andrews announces Click for Vic, a campaign to encourage Victorians to buy local produce.
Important to acknowledge that whilst many businesses are closed and Victorians are not in a position to be able to be out shopping other than for the absolute basics. There are so many outstanding products, so many outstanding small businesses for whom quality is the real key. A quality offering in terms of products and produce, and it's only appropriate that we work as hard as we can to try and direct Victorians to those amazing Victorian businesses. Click for Vic, so an opportunity for a really first-class offering to be in one place or a series of places where Victorians can go online and make some of those purchases. The quality of Victorian produce is well known, very well understood and highly sought, but these restrictions and where we find ourselves is very challenging. But whether it be craft brewing or a whole range of other food, a whole range of other products, there are so many businesses across Victoria that are just absolutely outstanding, and the Click for Vic campaign will mean that every Victorian can play a part in supporting small business and supporting jobs by continuing to buy those first-class products online with the support of both Visit Victoria and the Victorian Government. Can I thank and congratulate all of those who've been involved in putting together, whether it's the Victorian Country Market, Providore, or the CoLab Pantry, and many other offerings. I would encourage Victorians to go online and visit these sites. I'm sure you will find many products that are the envy of the world, and if you can play your part in purchasing some of the things you need with a very local focus, then you're supporting those small businesses, you're supporting not just them but their staff, and you're making it much more likely that they are there on the other side of this second wave.
And like rightfully said, and as we've seen that online shopping has now gained popularity. Even in our two complexes that we are involved with, we've seen a large number of parcels being delivered, and the delivery people trying to buzz all the people, in all the rooms to see if they can come and get their thing. But in one of the complexes, they put down a new state-of-art center. So it's like a big, huge locker where the delivery people come in. And they punch in some certain numbers and they put in those lockers, and the residents get a reminder that their parcel has been delivered to the box. They go in, punch in that unique number, and that door opens for them and they pick up their parcel. So this is the way of the future, and I can see that there will be growth in this segment, as we have seen the growth of Amazon and other ones. Online shopping will be the thing of the future, and that will that's an area where people are investing it, and everyone's looking at if the business is not online and if it's not open 24/7. Nowadays a business has to be open 24/7, meaning that your portal, your website should offer advice or bookings or whatever it may be. You may be offering 24/7. If someone logs onto your site, does not have to talk to anyone, your site should be so well designed that they are able to browse through, place an order, check out on the web itself. So and that's why if anyone needs any information, they don't have to wait till the opening of the office in the next morning to get that information. Information should be on your website. So that's an area where people would be very busy right at this point in time. I know we have been making some changes to our website. Our online booking portal is opening very soon. It's always there, but this will be a full portal where you can go book your ad, select the sizes, whatever, and check out all on your own at the convenience of the time that suits you, without even having to speak to anyone. You can just do it at the convenience of your own time. So that's the way things are going, but right now, Daniel Andrews, the Premier of Victoria, also says that Victorians need to stay on track so that the restrictions could be eased earlier. If there is if they don't behave well, then the restrictions might last for longer.
Professor Sutton just said that we won't see numbers in the 300s and 400s again on his watch. Are you confident of that as well?
I am, but again, the key point here though is that if we, back to Laurel's point about fatigue, and I get it, I understand it, no one wants these rules to be in place for a moment longer than they need to be. and everyone would like to go back to something approaching normal as fast as possible. But we just have to acknowledge, again, whether we like it or not, we just have to acknowledge this key point. If we start opening up before we have defeated this second wave, then we'll just be in the beginnings of a third wave. That is of no benefit to anybody. That will just mean that people, we might all feel a little bit better for a very short amount of time, and then the numbers will grow, and we'll be back where we are now. We've got to beat this thing and get these numbers down to such a low level that we can keep a lid on them, not just for a week or two, but indeed have them suppressed, have it extinguished to the greatest extent possible, but have it suppressed and with every likelihood that we can maintain those low numbers until, of course, the ultimate vaccine arrives.
What's your message then to those?
So there you are, as the Premier said there, that we need to do our bit. Last week, we know, has been a week where there has been a lot of challenges on the borders, so much commentary about the borders and the border closures, so much so that it's been known as the border dispute. When we look at that, it has been a week of hope, says Prime Minister, but it's also been a week of frustration in the Federation. Disputes over border closures have been escalating, and the federal government has struggled to accept its responsibility for the failures in aged care. So let's see that report.
But maybe you ain't never gonna feel this way. You ain't never gonna know me. But I know.
I'm not sure about the song.
Australia is tonight a step closer to the vaccine that could release us from the grip of COVID-19.
Today is a day of hope. Australia needs hope, the world needs hope. The hope is we can get it to everybody as quickly as possible. We would hope early next year. If it can be done sooner than that, then even better.
Labor says it's nothing more than government spin.
AstraZeneca has said there is no agreement that has been signed.
We have the added advantage that we can make it here too.
It is not clear, despite the Prime Minister's spin and rhetoric, that we have the manufacturing capacity in Australia.
You basically get the recipe and off you go. I'm advised that we'll need about a 95% vaccination rate across the country.
I would expect to be as mandatory as you can possibly make it.
I'm not happy about this. I'm quite angry about it because you have no right to say, I have to have this vaccination.
There'll be very strong campaigns to encourage people.
The PM has dialed back a little bit this evening.
It's not going to be compulsory to have the vaccine.
So what happens if that Oxford vaccine doesn't work? Well, the good news is all our vaccine eggs are not in the one basket.
A final contract for the Oxford vaccine should be signed within weeks, but even if everything goes like clockwork, it won't be widely available here until the middle of next year.
Today's meeting of the National Cabinet came during a week of what I'd describe was increased hope.
There are some issues which National Cabinet can work on and resolve, and there are other issues like the border battles which National Cabinet simply isn't there yet.
The practical application of some of these arbitrary closures means that supply chains can be interrupted.
Decisions cannot be made on an arbitrary basis. I'm not suggesting they are.
We're continuing to ask them to try and get the borders to open.
There will not be a blanket exemption for everyone. We have to protect Queenslanders.
It's based upon the best of health advice to protect the citizens of our state.
We understand why those border arrangements have been put in place.
Borders are no substitute for not having an adequate testing regime. I'm not suggesting any states and territories don't.
Regional Australia is a little bit different.
I believe it's timely now to start looking at other restrictions in regional rural New South Wales to lift so that we can get some economic.
And I really hope so, as the song goes, that only hope that things can get better, and we hope that the things can get better. Well, right now, let's take a very quick look at the functions and events and some of the functions that have been cancelled as well. And ladies and gentlemen, if you have any function or event that you'd like to have included in our program, we'll quite gladly take that. All you need to do is contact our office and we will include that in our program. So, ladies and gentlemen, there you are, all the functions and events that are on record with us. And of course, we know that many of the functions and events might not be going ahead. And of course, if you were invited to that Hawan at Queensland Vedic Cultural Centre on the 30th, that is now been put off until the next notice, so it's been postponed. It will probably happen further down the track. But right now, Devika, as I mentioned before, that we'd like to wish you all the best on your very, very special day. And as you are quite religious of the nature, I'd like to bring to you a clip where we go to Guyana. As we know, with our GoPio, we have our chapters all over the world, and it's always good to see the Indian customs and traditions kept and maintained globally. And this is the Guyana Dharmik Sanstha and their performances at Ganesh Chaturthi. This is today dedicated to you, Devika. So this has been brought to you by the courtesy of the Guyana Dharmik Sansthan, and coming all the way from Guyana and not India. So, ladies and gentlemen, with that, I need to say goodbye. It's been wonderful having your company as usual. And once again, I'd like to wish you all a very, very safe day. Please do take care and also take heed of the notices that have been put out by Queensland Health and Queensland Government. So until tomorrow, it's goodbye from me. Stay safe.